Welcome back to another episode of A Buddhist Married a Mormon. I'm Veronica.
I'm Duke.
And today we're going to be answering my questions about something someone in a class asked me when
it's very unique to Mormonism.
When she learned that I was married to a Mormon, she asked me some questions and I'm like, I have no idea. So she asked me about eternal family and eternal marriage. And I said, well, aren't I just married to you until I die? And that's pretty much it. But apparently she knows more than I do because apparently I'm married to you forever.
You have to be married in the temple. Mormons have this, specifically the LDS, have this thing about temples. And temples are supposed to be considered extra sacred spaces where certain ordinances that are necessary for your salvation are done. So one of those ordinances would be getting married together and what they call sealed for eternity.
Sealed for eternity.
Sealed for eternity.
Because, for me, I felt it was a till death do us part kind of thing, not for all eternity.
Correct. And that would be how everybody else sees it, but a Mormon. It's different than what you may conceive.
And their idea of eternity is the spiritual afterlife
Forever.
as well as your permanent life. So both.
Right.
Like in
Right.
heaven.
Right.
Basically, we're talking about in heaven,
right.
I will still be your wife.
Right.
If I was married to you in the temple.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I don't believe this anymore. I don't understand.
But you did it one time.
I did it one time. And it's kind of a gimmick that the Mormon Church uses to bring people in. They'll say stuff, well, don't you want to be with your family forever? And those of you...
If you like your family.
Yeah, if you like your family, right? And gullible people will be like, well, gee, you mean I can't be together with my family forever? And that's the thing. Again, I'm going to reference our first video. Go take this to God and ask for yourself, but I don't buy this concept of eternal marriage anymore. The way I see it, a God who is capable of doing anything and all things, if someone continued to be fused together like that in a spiritual sense after death, those people will be together. The end. And see, this is where I started to have difficulty with the concept of eternal marriage in Mormonism, was my divorce. And
most people, with the exception of your parents, but every other Mormon person I have met is divorced. So apparently this person that they hate so much that they're divorced from, they're going to be stuck to in heaven for the rest of their spiritual, or for all eternity,
or they go through church court.
Court.
The Mormon Church actually has courts, if you don't know this.
All right.
And they get it divorced through the church. Yeah, and so basically, I had difficulty with this because not only are you supposed to be married to your partner for eternity, but your children are also attached to you for eternity.
Yeah, someone mentioned that about eternal family. Like your family is also attached to you forever in the spiritual world in heaven.
And my whole point
but then the thing is,
why wouldn't you be attached in eternity anyway?
Okay, but then my children's wives would be attached to my boys. But then how will they be attached to me if they're also attached to their wives? Or we just all become one big family?
Well, see,
living in one big spiritual house.
This is what shut it down for me, okay? My divorce. Clearly my marriage did not work. I was married to the wrong person. So I'm just a mortal man. I made a mistake, obviously. And this concept that I, as a mortal man who don't understand the big picture, can be attached to somebody for eternity and make that kind of decision as a mortal.
I think especially when they are pressured so young to get married.
Yeah, there's huge pressure in the Mormon Church to get married young.
We'll talk about that in another episode.
Yeah.
But we do talk about the culture of Mormonism on this channel, not just the religion of Mormonism.
It's important to understand there's a difference. a big difference, and they can be confused easily. So, but for me, the way I understand God being an eternal entity, an all-powerful entity, and we being children of that same God with the same eternal concept, but in a mortal state, not knowing the full consequences of our decisions, why would we be given the ability to marry and fuse to each other for all of eternity when we can't even conceive that concept? All of eternity, and it was my divorce screwing it up the first time that made me realize just how ridiculous that is at all. And then furthermore, let's say you and I are fused, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that we are fused in spirit. There is no mortal authority on earth that can bring us together. No divorce laws, no anything that can force us to be together the way we're fused together in spirit. And if we're fused together that way now, why wouldn't we be continue to be fused that way just because we didn't do a bunch of mumbo jumbo in the temple after death? Mm-hmm. Why would a God who is all powerful not honor what we have forged in spirit together already?
So, if you were to die and I get remarried,
correct,
and I fall in love with my next husband,
sure,
but then when we die, I'm then fused to you for all eternity, yes, and not him.
Yes, but it's different if you're a man.
Oh, really?
Yes. I could, in the Mormon church, have more than one spiritual, quote-unquote, wife. Ah. So even though they don't practice physical polygamy anymore...
It's spiritual polygamy.
More or less.
Why are you kidding me?
No.
All right.
Nope. Yeah, but you would be fused to your first husband. So
I remember a story about someone asking Jesus, I think they were trying to probe for some, info on the afterlife, and they posed this question about, well, what if a woman was married to a man and he died, and so his brother wed her, which mm-hmm. was the Hebrew tradition, so mm-hmm. that she wouldn't be, homeless. And then he died, and so she married somebody else. I see where you're going. And then, so she had multiple husbands during mm-hmm. her lifetime. And then upon her death, whose wife would she be?
Right.
And Jesus answered it and said, neither of them. She would be her own spiritual being, correct, separate from them. So how does the LDS Church reconcile the fact that their beliefs are completely contrary to what Jesus said? So
they don't mention that scripture.
Oh, they don't mention that.
They don't mention that one. Yeah.
Okay. So
look in the link below, or look down below here. I'm sure we're going to reference that. We're gonna put it in a little infographic down here where you can go and look it up yourself.
It's in the book of Matthew.
Yeah.
22.
Something like that.
I'm not.
22 is a good. Matthew
okay.
22.
But anyway, so I guess. So what is the answer? So the answer to the question is the Mormon Church cannot reconcile the fact that they have rules different than what Jesus said. Are their rules better than Jesus, or just different from Jesus, or is something being misinterpreted there?
They would say it's an interpretation issue, and
so when Jesus says neither, how is that open to interpretation? She'll be her own spiritual being.
They do their own thing. That's just the way it's always
Except
been.
If you get married in a Mormon temple and then you are enslaved to your husband for all eternity in the afterlife.
Right. Yeah.
So Buddhists believe that after you die, you don't belong to your spouse. Mm-hmm. In fact, they actually believe in divorce in the living world because they believe that in order to achieve enlightenment, in order to get to heaven, because they believe in reincarnation. So if your soul has not evolved enough, if you haven't leveled up enough to go to heaven, you get reincarnated and you have to keep doing remedial work until you are mm-hmm. leveled up enough to get to heaven. So they think that staying in a bad marriage in your mortal life will give you lots of negative thoughts and negative feelings and emotions and negativity around your spirituality, which will actually be a detriment to you getting into heaven.
Correct.
So actually the Buddhists believe that it would be better to get divorced if both parties are unhappy, so that both parties have a better chance of making it to heaven. And they also believe that marriage is considered a civil union,
Mm-hmm.
that the church has no business getting involved in, that
Mm-hmm.
it's a contract between two people.
Mm-hmm.
Although some of them still go to the temple to get a blessing from the monk, but basically they actually encourage divorce
Mm-hmm.
because they think it's better for your soul.
It is. It is. If you're in if my first marriage was not so Jerry Springer, I wouldn't have understood what you're saying. There is no way it was a good idea for me to try to make that marriage work. It was, shoot, even not being married to her has been an incredibly toxic experience. So I can only imagine that much more so continuing to try and make something work with somebody who clearly had no intention of honoring her vows. So, and again, it goes back to my first point, that we're just mortal. There's no way we know what we're doing. And as the song goes, everybody plays the fool. So, we're just learning, and to expect us to be able to get it right the first time eternally is just
Forever and ever in
forever
heaven.
and ever is just ridiculous. It is a gimmick.
Well, perhaps in future episodes we'll talk a little bit about young people and relationships and what to look for and what your red flag should be, and maybe learn from our mistakes.
Because we both had our share of mistakes. I made one glorious one, and let me tell you, that was all I needed. I learned everything I needed in one shot.
We look forward to including you on these conversations, as always, and we hope you join us for another episode. We have a lot of topics.
We do have a lot of topics
that we want to cover. So please follow or subscribe or whatever you need to click on or do, or put us in your calendar to know when another episode is coming up. Leave us some comments so you'll be notified of future shows. You can always email us or chat with us in our backstage community on patreon.com.
I'm sure you got lots of questions.
So thank you, friends, for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.